Born on the island of Palamonia, we find ourselves looking at Shaduk Navoy V, or as we will be calling him, Boban Bruce, or just Boban. Boban had a very tragic start of his life, being the birth state of the stage 1 in his life. Being a Shadowkai on an island that is prosperous through corruption, neglect, and disrespect. Palamonia wasn't really known for the peace-loving and free-giving as other countries was. A very isolated island on the ocean, Palamonia was isolated from the world. Meaning that the grasp on the world, or the worldview on the island had differed. Shadowkai wasn't really seen as humans. They were neglected. I'm not going to go into details on what happened, but it was torturous. Without no family, nor nothing that can support him, Boban found himself at the lowest ground of society. Throughout his life, he was tortured. It was a brutal survival, and for some reason, he continued to live. Why? We don't really know. Though, one day, 502, everything changed. As the corruption spread all over Palamonia after a incident happened, Boban was on a cruise ship. This cruise ship was the thing that made him survive everything. The cruise ship was exploded and destroyed under the process. Even though it was outside of the reach of the island, it was still affected. Boban was then infected by a less corrupted virus through his brain. Something that made him unconscious, floating on the waters. Luckily, he was saved, but the virus was still in him. The corruption was still feeding into him. This man who saved him is now known as Orion, the leader of the New Wave Owls. Stage 3, Rebirth. The Rebirth was a reborn, a new chance. With the help of Orion saw the potential in Boban. Why? We don't really know, or how. Though, through the group of NWO that had recently started at that point, he assigned a doctor by the name of Z. A very young, talented, very tall elf who really enjoyed experimenting and was able to connect his soul and functional heart and all that into a kind of other version of Boban, a new body of some sort. Though it was still Boban, it came with a cost. Yes, he was conscious now, but he only had a certain amount of time. The corruption had affected all of his organs, leading to a decaying body. The system could only help him this far. Though, as Boban was assigned a gift, he still had free will, but he wanted one thing. He wanted revenge. But he wanted to also learn about life. Throughout the coming years, he worked with the Z and Orion personally, being kind of an underground project in the gang, and he found it very peace-giving and finally felt hope. He was given something. He was actually wanted. He was given freedom. He was given rights. He wasn't tortured for being who he was or how he looked or what he was. As that went past, we come to stage 4, redemption and the sweet end. So how this all begins was very unfortunate. About 2 years after the explosion of Palamonia, that has been something called the Recall of the Plague, a gang that has been very prosperous with very rich founding members. These people, or this gang organization, has been terrorizing Lurchin, and Abaddon was pissed off. The owner of the Lost Inn Bar and also the Abaddon Monks, and as well as the Demon Alliance, he told Orion that he wanted this guy gone. He wanted the Recall of the Plague to be a recall in the future, or in the past. So with that, Orion was tasked with trying to eliminate. And knowing the information of La Cartha, a very small island on the ocean, being their next target, through the university that is very known, he sent Boban and Z and another person to that school. That other person came to be a woman named Ulva. Though we'll get to her later. And throughout this kind of year, Boban was enjoying himself. all the things. Being a rebellious kind of teenager, something that he never was, never could be because of how he kind of was born and where he was born. He wasn't the typical kid, no, never, nor could be. Though he founded the peace and the connection to that woman very, very nice and very peace-giving, and it gave him this gratification that even though I've been through all of this, I still have much to learn. But he helped two very noticeable and very unique, if I so say myself, students named Hayden and Saber. With the help of them too, they were able to actually annihilate the recall of the plague, though Boban was sent earlier, having something implanted into his body to be the sole purpose of the end of his torture from the void and the corruption. He annihilated the recall of the plague's minions that was sent there in a brutal fight on a cruise ship, just as the way of his rebirth was first founded. That is the story of Boban Bruce, a man who found joy in the little things. Thank you guys for hearing it out. This was your Swedish Nutty Dungeon Master with the story of Boban Bruce. If you found this enjoyable and want to hear more, not only about NPC characters but also player characters, then don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and comment down below what you thought was the coolest part of this story. I hope you continue to have the best day that you can possibly have. That was me, and I'll say goodbye. Peace out.